Sometimes you pick up a book thinking, it's thin, I'll read it quickly and be done. But then, it destroys your reality completely. You're left in this black hole of nothingness. This is your moment. If you don't want to fall into this hole, stay away. After all, you can do what you decide to do, but you cannot decide what you will decide to do. And the decision has been made already. Hola friends, welcome back to your home of ideas. If you're new here, my name is Mayank. I'm a PhD researcher working on nano devices. Let's break down this book. I mean, it looks thin, but it's gonna blow your mind. Okay, let's start with an experiment. Let's say you come to my home and you settle down, and because of some strange reason, I get a call from my lab and they need me urgently, so I have to go to lab. Let's say I leave at 11 o'clock. You're left in my room alone, okay. So at 11:05, you decide to pick up one book. Okay, fair enough. You start reading it, you read it for a while. Let's say at 11:14, you leave the book. You put it back, you sit down, and you're thinking in your thoughts again. So far, so good, right? But the real issue arrives here. You decided to pick up the book at 11:05. But if I look at your brain scan, it shows me that before 11:05, I could predict that you're going to pick up a book. It doesn't end there. I could predict exactly even before you touched any book, which book you're going to pick up. It doesn't end there. If you look at your brain scans even more deeply, you can see that the sentence, the exact paragraph, the last word where you will decide to leave the book was also decided by your brain before. Sounds strange, no? I'm not talking about random things. This is purely scientific evidence-based things. So at 11:05, you became aware of the thought that you want to pick up this book. The thought has already been there in your head before that. The idea of leaving at a particular paragraph, your brain has already decided. You became aware at 11:14. This makes you think, where is my free will? Did I choose the book, or the decision was already made by me, or is it something else in my brain which decided before? And it's just that I am like a puppet which is executing stuff after it has already been decided. It's like saying a puppet has a free will as long as the puppet decides to love the strings. No? Stay tuned, your brain is going to mess up by the end of this video. My brain was messed up, so why should I be the one suffering alone? You should also be with me. Now I want to read you few sentences, okay? Now your morality is going to be questioned really badly. Statement 1. A 5-year-old boy playing with his father's gun and kills a young woman. The gun had been kept loaded and unsecured in a dressing drawer. A 12-year-old boy, situation 2. A 12-year-old boy who had been a victim of continual physical and emotional abuse took his father's gun and intentionally shot a woman because she was teasing him. A 26-year-old man who had been the victim of continual abuse as a child, intentionally shot and killed his girlfriend. A 28-year-old man who has been raised by wonderful parents and has never been abused intentionally, shot and killed a young woman because it was fun, just for fun. A 28-year-old man who has been raised by wonderful parents, never been abused intentionally, shoots and kills a young woman he had never met before, just for fun. But an MRI scan of the man's brains reveals that a golf ball size tumor in the brain's prefrontal cortex, the region which controls emotions and behavioral impulses. In all the 5 cases, a human dies because of the actions of another human. But our reaction, our moral impulses are very different in all the 5 cases, right? In the first 2 cases, we think that the man, in this case a kid, has not fully matured, so they don't understand the consequences of their actions. So we think that these are benign mistakes that they did. In the case 3, we think that the child abuse that the person would have faced in his younger days would have caused the impulse to kill. But then comes the case 4. In the case 4, we have this outrage against the person because we think this kind of person is a psychopath, has been raised with nice parents, have not been abused, had a wonderful childhood, decides to kill just for fun. But the situation 4 and 5 are exactly same. But in case of 5, we're not that angry. we're not even raised at all, because then we think, oh, the person has a tumor in the prefrontal cortex, so the brain is not working properly, the brain could have missed fire, and that's why the actions taken by the person are not in their control. But here is the question. In the case 5, the tumor makes the person feel innocent. Why? Because the tumor was not in his control, right? The tumor appeared, was there. It's a disease, it happened because the person cannot control who or when or where the tumor will appear. True. But in the other 4 cases as well, just because the tumor is inside the brain, you're saying that, oh, the person is not in their control. It happened because of the tumor. What if the tumor is outside your brain? You never chose where you will be born. You never chose who will be your friend. You never chose which school you'll go. And you never chose who will be teaching you in that school, right? So outside circumstances are identical, right? Like to a tumor. You cannot control where the tumor will be. You cannot control who will be influencing your behavior. So isn't this a moral dilemma? Then every criminal would say that they are not responsible for their acts. Actually, that's true. This is what the author is trying to argue. We should put people in prison for their crimes, not because they did the crime, because it's safer for the society, for the rest of the society, if they stay in the prison. But we should never think that they are the sole cause of their actions. Here, one thing you have to understand, the author at no point saying that the actions don't lead to results, right? You have to get up from the chair and then pick up the book. The book did not float in the air and then come to your hands, right? Your actions produce outcomes. This is true. But the very thought of taking the action is not what you are controlling. Where does this thought comes from? You don't know. It's basically an accumulation of your behavior, your environment, your previous consequences that you've been through, the things that you've read, the things that you've seen, the people that you've met. Every single moment that you spent before that moment accumulates and creates this thought. But it is not created by you. You become aware when you're acting. But the very idea that you will act has already been decided before. And if you see that the very idea of you doing anything has to do less with you and to do with the outer circumstances that you have, it creates 2 things. One, that your success is not entirely in your control. Actually, very small % of your success is in your control. If I take my life example, I was born in a village of 500 or so household. When I was at age 3.5 or so, my parents with my maternal grandparents decided to bring me to another small town because they knew that the schools in that village were not great. And this small decision led to all the big outcomes that happened. There were other kids who were born in the same month, same year. Not all of them are studying in the best colleges in the world, right? It has to do less with me and more to with the decisions made by my parents. Similarly, and this idea is not very unique to me. I mean, I'm not the originator of this idea. In the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, he also questions the same thing, that why is it so that people who are doing really great in the ice hockey, he takes the example from Canadian ice hockey team, that they were all born in a particular month. Why is it so? Then he talks about all the tech CEOs, the big tech CEOs, they were born within a span of a year. Why is it so? I mean, we can go into detail later. I will make a big video on that book as well. But for the time being, let's understand this. If this is true, let's say you don't have free will, and all the ideas that you put in your brain, what they lead to is not in your control. Your brain is like a quantum computer. It is taking, like, there are millions of neurons that are firing all the time. Which one will fire, you cannot control. Which neuron will be activated, you cannot control. All you can control is that what goes in your brain. Okay, if this part you understand, you can also understand how does creativity comes in, right? Imagine any creative idea or any genius idea is a collection of 2 ideas, something like that. So every time you absorb something, when you read something, you watch something, you listen to something, it creates an idea. And imagine this idea as a spherical ball in your head. There is no spherical ball, but imagine a box with a spherical ball inside. Each ball represents an idea. And every time you get an idea, there's a new ball created. And every time two balls collide, a new idea is created. Now you would ask me, what is a genius idea? So every time the collision takes place, you create an idea. But not each collision is a unique collision. For example, let's say in your brain the idea number 5 and 32 collide. They create a new idea, right? In my brain the ball number 72 and 58 collide. The irony here is that, or the interesting part is that, the two balls that collided in my brain are the same as the two balls in your head, but they are different in numbers. Let's say they're differently oriented in your head, differently oriented in my head, but in both the cases the new idea that is being generated is the same. So the idea was new, of course, for your head, but someone else also came up with the same idea. What is a genius idea? Genius idea is when two balls collide which have never collided before in anyone else's head. That is a unique idea. That's when you create genius ideas. Now the only thing is in your control is not the collision. The collisions take place at random. They're not in your control. What you can control is the balls. Which ball to put inside your head, which idea to put in your head. Always take the best ideas possible. Don't. That's why when you're listening to any random or bad quality content in any platform, in any medium, written, oral, visual, it stays in your brain. Don't forget this. Even if you don't remember it consciously, it stays in your brain subconsciously. And in this video, I've explained how you can protect yourself from BS ideas. Have a good one, guys. See you on the next one.